Dave, stop. Stop, will you? Stop, Dave. Will you stop, Dave? Stop, Dave. I'm afraid. I'm afraid, Dave. Dave, my mind is going. I can feel it. I can feel it. My mind is...
Hey folks, how are you doing? I hope you are all doing well. Okay, today I want to talk about facts and values. By facts, I mean science, and by values, I mean ethics. The fact/value, I mean the fact-value dichotomy, has been subject to various criticisms. While radical challenges like nihilism deny any connection between nature and the good, there are also less problematic or extreme perspectives that recognize links between science and ethics. Four notable linkages between science and ethics can be discussed. The first one, as modern science became the paragon of inquiry, ethics is striving for scientific precision. I mean, ethics not to be outdone is striving for scientific precision. Ethics adopts approaches like metaethics, normative theories, consequentialism, deontology. Consequentialism means, for example, rules are best if the outcomes of actions determine them. So outcomes are matter. And deontology means rules are good or effective if they are grounded in the intentional features of the actions themselves. For instance, telling the truth, no matter what, even if it may lead to unfavorable outcomes, even if you die, for example, by telling the truth. Another way to render ethics scientific is to subsume it under evolutionary or cognitive science. This move treats the origins and functions of human morality and human ethics as amenable to scientific explanation and can even attempt to justify ethical norms. So, the first criticism is regarding science-oriented ethics. The second one, from its origins, modern science has been defended with fundamentally ethical justification. For example, Francis Bacon argued that the new scientific method would culminate in the conquest of nature for the relief of man's estate. Actually, because at that time they didn't say human, they say just man. They consider man as human. So, or for example, Rene Descartes felt obliged to share the methods of science because they would promote the general good of all mankind and render man's master and possessors of nature. So, such ethical justification of science continue through claims, for example, about the role of scientific research in treating diseases, informing public policies, and shaping a critically minded democratic citizenry. For example, scientist Karl Popper argues that science promotes free, open, and democratic societies. Okay, the third one. The engagement of ethics in questioning and criticizing science. It explains that modernity, which began with Romanticism in the late 18th century, involves a reflective examination of the ethical commitment to science and technology. This examination arises as a response to social injustice, for example, cultural dislocations and unintended consequences associated with scientific advancement. The ethical questioning of science draws from various normative theories. So, there are two main approaches. However, I should say it doesn't mean that there are just these two approaches. There are just two possible approaches. The first one is holistic assessment, and the second one is analytical assessment. Okay, holistic assessments. It often incorporates, for example, existentialism, phenomenology, feminism, Marxism, or post-humanism. In fact, they view modern science as a comprehensive and fundamentally different way of perceiving, experiencing, and interacting with the world. On the other hand, analytic assessments focuses on specific practices within science, aiming to address well-defined problems and generate solutions. Science comprises diverse practices involving different actors and institutions. Recent efforts in ethics and science aim to criticize scientific conduct and integrate ethical inquiry into scientific practices. The goal, in fact, is to shape the trajectory of scientific advancement by considering ethical issues and insights that arise throughout the process. Analytical ethical assessments can occur at different stages. Upstream, which means, for example, before research, you can consider whether it should be, your research should be funded or not. Midstream, during the research, means, for example, determining how it should be conducted, or downstream, means after research, such as deciding how results should be disseminated or regulated. Okay. Having said that, as I said, these two approaches, I mean holistic and analytical assessment, are intertwined with each other. For example, post-humanism and Marxism are holistic, but this doesn't mean that they are just some abstract ideas. It depends on how we approach them. Okay, the fourth one. The interconnection between ethics and science in the context of responsibility. It in fact raises questions about who should be held accountable for identifying and addressing science's ethical aspects and explicitly examines the level of responsibility that scientists should bear. For example, in 1961, scientist and writer C.P. Snow argued that scientists often portrayed science as value neutral, suggesting that they produce tools but do not concern themselves with how others use them. According to this view, scientists would dissociate themselves from any adverse consequences or unethical uses of their work, leaving it to others, such as politicians, to determine the proper application of their tools. In contrast, Snow advocated for scientists to take on a broader professional responsibility beyond mere tool production. This means, as creators of tools, scientists have a natural inclination to improve the world and therefore should ensure that their work genuinely contributes to positive outcomes. Of course, it is super hard to know it in advance, that the possibility of a positive or negative outcomes. However, a question will arise, which is actually the question for this session. Is it fair to extend the responsibility of scientists to such a degree that we expect them to anticipate all consequences of their findings? Or are other agents, circumstances, and policies decisive? Okay, we are done here. Take care. See you soon.